Hello, welcome to Outland Woodworks. My name is Shane, and today we're going to be looking at the SST020 saw calibration system. Let's get to it. So the first thing we want to do anytime we're going to work on a power equipment is to make sure it is completely unpowered, and you do that by either unplugging it or whatever safety lockout mechanism that your machine may have or tool may have to ensure that it cannot be powered while you're working on it. Just to show you here that I am working without power. This machine has yet to be plugged in at all. I'm still setting it up. And this is the Harvey HW110S52P. And what I've done in preparation, I've lowered the blade completely down. I've removed the upper blade guard. I have removed my miter gauges and basically got everything out of the way and ready to get this going. So the next step that we want to do is we want to raise our blade so we can get some measurements and making sure that this T-slot is square with our blade, and then we're going to set up our fence. So I'm going to raise this blade up all the way to the top. All right, so we're all the way up there. So now I'm going to move you over here and we will look at opening this up and seeing how all this works. Okay, so let's open the box up. We have a sticker. We have a sticker of what it looks like, I guess, if you wanted to put that on the box or something of that nature. And then we have some discount codes. There's the manual for this if you'd like it. Here's our tool. Looks pretty well built. And here is our dial indicator. Please recycle. So here in the back. Use on table saw, band saw, chop saw, rip saw, you name it saw. Pretty clever with their marketing there. Well, I believe it's safe to assume this is going to go in here. And there is a set screw here, which will take an Allen wrench, which I do not have out at the moment. That's the basic tool. So let me get some tools together here and briefly go over the instructions for this, and we'll be right back. So in the instructions, what they tell you to do first is to back this side screw out right here. And this does have an Allen head on it. And we will back that out and slip our dial indicator in here firmly. And then we will snug this back down. And you'll adjust your rail adjustments for how tight it is on your rail. There are two Allen head screws here. They tell you in the instructions to use a fine flat screwdriver. They are Allen head. I did attempt to use the Allen set that came with the saw between a 1.5 and a 2 millimeter. The 1.5 was too small and the 2 millimeter was too large. So I went over to my tools here and I found one that fits it. And this happens to be a 5/64, which is just a little under 2 millimeter, which is why the 2 millimeter wouldn't fit. And this does fit all of the different Allen slots. So per their first step, and in case you're curious, the minimum length is 2.35 inches. The plunge is 0.25 inches and the max reach is 5 inches. So it's making sure that that screw is backed out far enough. We're going to insert this. They said to make sure it is inserted firmly, which it is. And we are going to tighten up this screw. Not to be super crazy with it here, just snug so it doesn't slip. Okay, and then we'll move on to the next step. So in this next step, what we did is back here on the back of our gauge, there are 2 set screws, same 5/64 Allen, and we adjusted these until we've got a really good fit for our miter slot. And the way I checked this is I would slowly tweak it, and I would come in and just move it back and forth and see if you get any movement at all out of it. Any slight movement, and this is very finicky to adjust. The threads on these set screws are quite aggressive for doing such small adjustments. So you just barely turn it until you get it where you want it. So the next thing we want to do is take our tool, and this is probably a little bit stiffer than I'd like it, but it has to be that way in order for me to get no play in this at all. So you may experience the same thing. So I'm going to go out towards the end of my blade here, and I'm going to loosen this nut here. I'm going to slide this in till I see it touch, and then I want to go at least one full revolution in. Okay, we'll just go right there, and we will lock that down. Now we will take the outside of our bezel, and we can rotate this. If I loosen the nut here, make sure that we're settled good. Right into the 0. And I'm going to leave that nut loose because tightening it will make some minor adjustments in that dial. So we know here that we are at 0. Now we're going to slide to the other end of the blade. Check your blade for any anti-vibration slits in it, any holes in it, anything, from the manufacturer, of course, to make sure that when you slide this, you're going to get a nice smooth surface. So now we are very close to 0. There we go, 0. I'm going to take this here and I'm going to slide it to the other end. Now I know that you cannot see that, but I am basically about a 1,000th. And to adjust this particular table, which is the Harvey HW110S52P, you have to loosen the bolts on this table and move the table. And getting 1,000th out of that would be so finicky, and it is so minimal that I don't believe that I'm going to mess with that on this particular saw. And again, I'm really only looking at the ends here because, again, this blade has anti-vibration cuts in it. It has a few holes in it from the manufacturer. So it's going to have a little bit of deviation towards the center, so end to end. I am so close. It may not even be a full 1,000th. It is so darn close. So I'm very happy with that. And that's from the factory. I haven't adjusted anything on this. This saw hasn't even been turned on yet. Still setting all this up, which, by the way, if you're interested in seeing this full build on this machine, check the channel. It should all be there, or at least most of it. So that sets up our saw blade. So next we're going to approach the fence. Before we get over to the fence part, there is something that I do want to do. Now this is from my specific machine. I would imagine any machine could be calibrated this way, but check with your manufacturer for exactly how they would like you to calibrate it. What I'm going to do is right here at the end of my blade, I'm going to put a piece of painter's tape, and I'm going to put a piece of painter's tape on the other end of my blade with my blade raised all the way to the top. So take a short piece, mark that here. Another piece, and mark that here. We're going to lower our blade all the way down. So for the fence, what we've done now is we have basically flipped our gauge around, and we could have used the other miter slot to check the blade, but I figured I would use the same slot for both the blade and the fence. Then I know any inaccuracies in the table wouldn't show up here, which is highly unlikely there are anyway. So we put our gauge down, we pulled our fence up, we let the dial indicator rotate at least once, and then we lock our fence. And what we're looking for here on this particular saw, what they recommend in the manual, is 1/64th of an inch between the front of the blade and the back of the blade kicked out. So 0 here, 1/64th of an inch here, which is roughly 16 thousandths of an inch. Rounded up just a hair. So again, I've brought my fence over, I've locked it down, I'm using my tape as a gauge for where the front of my blade was. Here's for my back of the blade. I'm going to push down, not hard, just firmly. Make sure that I'm on 0. And then I'm going to slide this all the way down to my next slot. And I've got it a little snug right there. We're exactly 16 thousandths of an inch. And I have already calibrated this fence for that. And what that allows for is, as you're pushing your stock through the saw, it allows some relief on the back side of the blade, so the back side of your blade does not burn your wood. And again, that is the fence that is towed out a little bit, 1/64th of an inch, front of the blade to the back of the blade. The miter square is square to the blade. So that's pretty much it. Very simple to use. It takes a little bit of finessing to get the miter slot just right on the fit, but other than that, worked great. No complaints at all here. So if you found that at all useful, consider giving me a thumbs up. If you like this kind of content and a little bit more, please consider subscribing. And if you know somebody that might be interested in this tool, feel free to send this on to them. We'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.